Welcome to Ideagen TV. Today, I'm honored and privileged to have a great friend and colleague, Nick Laragakis from the American Hellenic Institute, with me for this incredible interview. Nick, welcome.
Good to be with you, George. Always a pleasure.
You know, Nick, you're changing the world. You're leading the way. You've been a voice for the rule of law for so many years. In fact, I've incorporated your focus on the rule of law because it applies to so much. It applies to just about everything. If there's a rule of law, whether it's in your family or whether it's in your community or whether it's some transgression from a global entity like a government, we need to call it out, right? And so, you know, you've been passionate about that, and I'd love for you to describe specifically, as it relates to your work, your relentless, your focused work on U.S.-Greece relations. What are some of the current projects or initiatives that the American Hellenic Institute is currently focused on? I know there are many, but what are a few that you're like, we need to get this done?
Well, specifically, though, as it relates to the rule of law, I like to always say that in the 21st century, the arsenal of democracy needs to be the rule of law. And that's where we begin from. That has to dictate, you know, how governments go about their business, how peoples go about their business. And if we abide by the rule of law, things will fall in place. But we can't be selective in how we apply the rule of law. And that is somewhat of a pet peeve of mine in leading this organization for all these years. And to that effect, I may not necessarily would have started with this particular point, but since you talked about the rule of law, let's start with Ukraine, for example, and how they've called it regarding, you know, we've got to follow the rules-based international order, which I absolutely agree. But we cannot be selective in how we apply the rules-based international order, because that makes a mockery of the whole rules-based international order if we're selective in that we don't apply it for friend and foe alike. It's got to be equal, and it cannot be double standards. And specifically, I bring up the issue of Cyprus, which now is in its 50-year invasion and occupation, which we will commemorate on July 20th, of where Turkey continues to occupy approximately 1/3 of the Republic of Cyprus today, with no end in sight. And yet the violations that have been perpetrated by Russia in its invasion of Ukraine are no different than the violations perpetrated by Turkey in its invasion of Cyprus in 1974, and specifically as it relates to the second offensive of Turkey of August 14th of 74, while negotiations were going on. So I'd like to remind the audience there, how can we call out on what Russia is doing, as we rightfully should, and condemn it at the highest possible levels and support Ukraine to the best of our abilities, because aggression cannot be rewarded, but not call it out for what's, in my opinion, a little bit more incredulous, in that you have a NATO member called Turkey, which now in its 50 years is still continuing to occupy and divide a country called the Republic of Cyprus that's a member of the European Union. So, George, what we have here today, and have somebody disagree with me if they possibly can, but you have a NATO country with a NATO army, by definition, you know, Turkish army is a NATO army, occupying a member of the European Union, and yet no one is doing a damn thing about it. That's what you have on the ground today, and therefore, when we're invoking the rule of law, the rules-based international order, and all the tangents of international law, that has to be applied equally to everybody, friend and foe alike. So these are the issues that we, on the eve of the 50th, unfortunate illegal invasion and continued occupation of Cyprus of Turkey of 74, which gave birth to this organization called the American Hellenic Institute, we're still obviously making policymakers aware of the outstanding issue that continues to exist, and how you have to apply the law equally across all domains and not be selective. So that's certainly a major component, an objective of the organization today, but to also, of course, continue to bring to policymakers an awareness of the role that Greece and Cyprus are playing today. And Cyprus's role has really shot up. Its star has really risen regarding its geostrategic importance. It's always been geostrategically important, but now policymakers in Washington are starting to recognize it quite a bit more, to the point where just a couple of weeks ago, there's been an announcement that Cyprus and the United States are going to engage in a strategic dialogue. And that's extremely important. So that elevates Cyprus to a whole other level in terms of its importance. So again, these are the issues that we continue to bring out. Greece, without a doubt, continues to play a critically pivotal, important role in the Eastern Mediterranean, an area that is just of critical importance, that it occupies for energy transit, commercial transit, shipping, trade, energy, communications. Greece is there. It's the easternmost outpost of the European Union and NATO combined. You can argue, of course, that Cyprus is the most eastern point of the European Union, but they're not part of NATO. So Greece, in conjunction with Cyprus, are providing for peace and stability in the Eastern Mediterranean, thereby being able to have the projection of U.S. geostrategic interests to be able to unfold and to take shape. And they provide for this in so many multiple ways. And we try to obviously continue to promote that and advocate for that in the policy circles of Washington and the general community at large.
And Nick, again, you're focused on the rule of law. And so as we look at the intricacies and the links between the balance of interest of the United States and of Greece, how do you help to foster the synchronous relationship that benefits truly both nations?
Well, again, by some of the things I just said, reinforcing and making policymakers aware that Greece is an extremely important ally of the United States. They're a faithful ally. They're a loyal ally. They provide for the national defense interest of NATO. They spend well over 2% of its GDP on defense, as mandated by NATO. More are doing so recently after they've been threatened, if you will. But Greece spends just short of almost 4% of its GDP, which is extraordinary for a country the size of Greece. And I remind, again, those who are listening, that Greece is only the size of Alabama, has now the GDP of about Kansas, if you will, and the population of just a little bit more than New York City, but punches way above its weight in terms of providing for the defensive posture, the geostrategic, the stability, and the peace that it provides in this very important arc of instability that Greece is surrounded with. And it provides that in so many ways, and that's an important element of strengthening the relationship. We'd like to see, obviously, expand on more on the economic front, although that is starting to happen through the Development Finance Corporation called the DFC. A number of projects have been financed and are underway in Greece. Energy is a major component where Greece continues to play a major role as a provider of energy and an alternative for energy especially for countries in Eastern Europe and the Balkans, not as a provider necessarily, but by a transient component for energy to this region through its various facilities of where energy transits through, like the Trans-Adriatic Pipeline, and also, of course, the FSRU units now that are in Alexandroupolis, and provides for liquefied natural gas to be able to be dispersed through into the Balkans and into Eastern Europe. And more of these facilities would enhance Greece's capabilities of being much more of an energy transient country. And let's don't forget also, Greece is a major shipping power. They transport anywhere between 20 to 24% of all the world's commerce and trade through Greek shipping. So this is, again, it's an important maritime power, which sometimes does not get noticed enough, and it should, in terms of another value added regarding Greece and how it helps the world's commerce and trade, which, as we know, I believe arguably it's somewhere around 80% of all the world's commerce is transported by shipping, and Greece contributes to about 20 to 24% of that.
Incredible statistics and perspective, Nick, as always. And so you AHI reached, and you together with your efforts helped it reach an incredibly impressive 50-year milestone. Nick, what are a few key takeaways? There are many. What are a few key takeaways from the past 50 years of AHI's existence that you can articulate to our global audience, to millions of people that will watch this program? And then how are you positioning AHI? Because I know you are. How are you positioning AHI for the next 50?
Well, look, it's important to have organizations like AHI who are here based in Washington, D.C., the center of power, where policy is made, and to be able to advocate for the issues regarding the Eastern Mediterranean. So AHI's role has been critical, and both sides of the Atlantic have expressed that to me at different times, in private and also in public domain, regarding the role of AHI and to strengthening the U.S.-Greece, U.S.-Cyprus relationship. We do it as American citizens and what we believe is in the best interest of the United States, but that also, of course, helps our ancestral homelands of Greece and Cyprus, and to be able to create, a much stronger bond between these countries. So AHI is a catalyst, is a driving force in trying to do that to the best of our abilities, and of course our resources, because you need resources. And I just wish I had a little bit more resources. I believe it could be doing a lot more. But be it as it may, I've always felt just like Greece punches above its weight, AHI has also punched above its weight and being able to do a number of things to help in this regard. So it's not just a matter of also the policy development that we continuously advocate for, that we introduce in terms of talking points and dialogue and legislations that we've introduced on Capitol Hill. Of course, the arms embargo by the legendary founder of AHI, Gene Roussidis, and working, with a large cross-section of the Greek American community at the time, was successful in passing an arms embargo on Turkey back in 1975. Other legislations as it relates to the ecumenical patriarchate and the issues that it faces, and that's another important area that AHI continues to advocate for. Cyprus goes without saying. But you need an organization, a professional organization, to be here, to listen, to hear, to engage, to advocate, and to keep, frankly, policymakers' feet at the fire, and reminding them of the realities that exist in the Eastern Mediterranean in terms of who is doing what to help promote U.S. interest in the very important area of Eastern Mediterranean, and frankly, who is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, but yet are called a NATO ally. And of course, the outreach of education that we've been able to evolve for the next generation of Greek American leaders. Our very successful student foreign policy trip, which I just concluded the 16th such trip, and I had the honor and pleasure to squire 11 Greek American highly motivated, intelligent students to the region and to introduce them to the issues that we advocate for, so we can create ambassadors and advocates for these issues moving forward, because there is, unfortunately, a lot of misunderstanding. There's a lot of unawareness regarding a lot of the issues, even within our own Greek American community. And that's a challenge that we need to overcome as we move into the future. As you said, here at AHI, 50 years, I've been here 37 of them. I've been blessed. And as I look, into the future, into the next 50 years, and I look to be able to, bring and mentor individuals into the organization who can continue, the cause, who can continue to advocate on the issues and to bring in their own vision of what we should be doing and ways to do them. We don't have a monopoly. No one person has a monopoly, and how is the best way to do something. And as I've always said, we all have expiration dates. And although I still have a ways to go, I'm not there anywhere yet to hang up the old spurs. But you have to start at some point molding and educating and mentoring the next leaders of this organization to be able to take the organization continuously into the 21st century.
Nick, it's remarkable what you've done with the 16th annual trip for these future global leaders. Back in January of this year in Miami, we launched the Ideagen Foundation focused on future global leaders. And it's important across the board because there's many that feel, maybe you do, I certainly do, that there's dearth of leadership out there. And, without having the ability to educate and to expose these future global leaders to what's actually happening, it makes things much more difficult, as you said, if they're unaware or just don't have the insights to develop the foresights to make, competent decisions, again, perhaps based on the rule of law or whatever element it is. And so you're engaging with these younger Greek Americans to amplify and prioritize the key elements that AHI fights for every single day. And so what advice would you give to these future global leaders, just across the board, beyond even Eastern Mediterranean issues? What is that lesson that you've learned that you say, wait, you need to know this before you get out there? What is that?
Well, they need to know, frankly, a couple of things. One, we want them to understand how important these issues are, not because of one of their parents or both of their parents might be from Greece, and maybe on a lower scale, maybe one of their parents might be from Cyprus. But these issues are not just parochial issues that involve Greece, Turkey, and Cyprus. These are issues that involve ultimately the interest of the United States and America, in the Eastern Mediterranean. And they should have a special interest to know what the minutiae of these issues are. But to keep in mind that what they are today may not be a year from now or even 6 months from now, because these issues are fluid, they change, and you got to continue to be on top of them. So just because we took you on a trip for 17 days and you saw a number of things and you were exposed to a number of briefings on certain issues of today, well, they may change. And therefore, you have to be constantly educating yourself and be on top of these issues and being aware of these issues, so you know how to be able to understand them, advocate for them, hopefully, and to be able to advance them. That's as it relates to these issues. But from there on, I also like to be able to give them some, professional advice, if you will, and that is that, as you move through your professional careers, whatever that might be, just make sure that you're engaged in something that you really enjoy to do. As I say, the overwhelming amount of awakened hours that you are on this planet, any one of us, we're at work, and it makes for a very difficult life if you're at a job that makes you miserable, or you're just for the money. I like to say, have passion for what you do, but enjoy what you do. Don't go after the money first. Go after your passion and something you really want to engage in. And then I really, truly believe, and I'm a living example of that, frankly, that the money ultimately and the successes will come. But follow your passion and follow something that you really, really enjoy doing, because it would make for a very difficult life if you're doing something on a daily basis that you just hate waking up and going to.
Such incredible advice, Nick. And so as we look at engaging with AHI, how can organizations and individuals help further support the mission of AHI And what is your call to action for our global audience?
Look, the call to action is, ladies and gentlemen, understand, okay, that even though there's a relative calm and peace as it relates to the territory of Greece, and you can even argue on Cyprus that no one is shooting or killing each other. That doesn't mean, though, that there aren't serious problems there that can manifest themselves at any given moment in time based on something that may create an explosion. And I'm not overstating this. Okay, we need to be aware. You know, Greece, for many Greek Americans, for example, they view it as a great place to go vacation because the sun is out, the beaches are full of beautiful people, the tavernas are full of beautiful people, and so forth and so on. But Greece lives in a very dangerous neighborhood, okay? And therefore, they need to be aware of the challenges, okay, to the sovereignty of Greece. Now, Greece can defend itself because it has a very formidable, armed forces that's well equipped, okay, and first and foremost, to be able to defend its sovereign territory, which is extremely important. But they also, in so doing, defend NATO, Western interests, and there are challenges. There is a somewhat, and I use the word loosely, detente right now, as of December 7th, at the Athens Declaration, that was where President Erdogan and Prime Minister Mitsotakis met in Athens. I don't know how long this will last because the outstanding issues between Greece and Cyprus continue to be there. And there are really mostly issues, okay, that Turkey feels that it has. Greece doesn't feel it has any issues whatsoever. The only outstanding issues that they feel they need to discuss with Turkey are as it relates to the continental shelf, but that's it. Turkey feels that there's a whole bunch of other issues. Turkey feels really that half of the Aegean belongs to it, and so forth and so on, without getting into all the details. So even though there's this calm there, and thank God there is, okay, these outstanding issues continue to fester, and they need to be made, and we need to be made aware of, okay, as elements of the Greek American community per se. Now, organizations like AHI don't run just on the goodwill. We're a nonprofit organization. We do need the backing and support of the Greek American community. We're a membership-based organization, and we need the support of as many members as possible to be able to continue to help us and to support us to do our daily work that we've been doing for 50 years and for it to continue in the next 50 years. My goal is to raise a $10 million endowment budget for the AHI. So I will leave this organization hopefully financially secure once I decide to ultimately hang them up into the future. So my goal moving forward here in the years that I will continue to be here is to try to secure that $10 million endowment fund so I can secure this organization financially moving forward, so I can continue to do the work that it's doing. That's important that it does, and it's important that it's here to do, but to be able to continue into the future and not have a financial burden of what I face on a monthly basis of always having to constantly fundraise to make sure that we're able to continue to do this work and to do it well.
Nick Laragakis, the American Hellenic Institute, changing the world, my friend. What is the best way for people, those millions of individuals that are watching this program, to find out more about your work?
I would just recommend that they go to our website at ahiworld.org, and everything that you want to know about the organization, including how to donate, how to become a member, is on our website.
Nick Laragakis, you're a good friend, and you're changing the world, and you're focused on the rule of law. Thank you for that. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, George, and congratulations with all you do with Ideagen. And I wish you good luck on the summit in Athens, and I'm sorry I'm not going to be able to be with you. I really mean that.
Well, we will see you soon, Nick, and you'll be there in spirit, and your message will be there with us.
You take care now. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.